Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and we are painting the gorilla today. We have Keenan working our cameras, so
Hello.
He'll be, sorry.
You're fine.
He'll be asking questions, telling me where to look, all of that fun stuff. We are going to be doing this gorilla in 6 steps. So our very first step is we're going to kind of define the shadows. So we're going to put in the nose shadows, mouth, and some of the wrinkles around the eyes. Our second step is we are going to do a wash on the face and start blending some of those shadows out. Our third step we're going to do around the face, kind of more the hair area. Our fourth step we're going to go back to the face, do some more shadows. There's a lot of layering in this project, so we'll do another layer on the face. Fifth step we're going to go and do the eyes. Sixth step is what I call details, and basically what that means is we'll just kind of do a general look over everything, see if there's anything we need to adjust or do another layer on and finish her up.
Perfect.
The colors we are using in this project are all 4 of the colors that came into your kit. So we have lemon yellow, magenta, azure blue, and black. Now the majority of the project is going to be kind of a blue-black mixture. Other really handy things to have around doing this project, make sure you have your graphite paper to transfer the outline, paper towel handy, and I'm actually going to use painter's tape and tape off the edge, all the edges of my painting so you guys can see what a clean edge looks like with a painting. Let's do our oath, then we'll do the outline, then we'll get started. Okay?
Okay.
So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me, I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. And I love to start that way because, gosh, when we try something new, we tend to be so hard on ourselves. Like if we try something, it's just not coming out how we want it to. There's a lot of really negative self-talk happening, and that kind of takes the fun out of it. So I just want to acknowledge that if you're brand new at this, it's not going to be perfect, and it's not supposed to be. This is about trying something new, and if art and painting is something that you really want to keep doing and get better at, all you have to do is keep painting. That's it. That's what it takes. So you made the first step by being here with us today, and I am grateful. Now we are utilizing a lot of the techniques that we learned in our past few tutorials. Layering, wet on wet technique, holding our brushes different ways. If this is your first painting with us out of this box, I would suggest maybe going and looking at the other projects and maybe trying those first. This one is a little bit more difficult. Which we can do hard things. I just want you guys to have a little bit of practice underneath you before you start this one. Also, if you need any further information on watercolor in general in terms of supplies, techniques, or words that I tend to use, you can check out our beginner series. I'll try and explain stuff as I go. Keenan will ask questions if he needs to have me clarify anything.
I love asking questions.
You're really great at it.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have my outline taped to my paper, and the reason why I do that is so I can kind of lift it up and check it as I go, right? That way I don't lose my spot. I'm going to unfold my graphite paper, the same sheet that I've been using for all of these projects. Graphite paper gets better over time, so don't throw it out, just keep on using it. And grab pen, pencil, marker, whatever writing utensil. I'm going to use an orange one so it's easy to see what I've outlined, because man, there are a lot of lines on this outline. You'll also notice that there are kind of some hash marks on this, specifically right here on the left side of the mouth and in the brow area. That's just to remind you and me that that's where some shadows are, some darker values. So you don't have to trace those in if you don't want to. Also, another thing with outlines, they are just a guideline for you. So if you skip an area, if the line is further than what's on the outline, that's all right. No problem at all. I don't want you guys to feel like this is a coloring book and you need to only color within the lines. That is not our goal.
It's like the pirate code.
What's the pirate code?
More like a guideline. That's what he says. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirate
like,
code
I
is
don't know
more
what you're
of
talking about.
a guideline.
And also, of course, if you've started tracing, you can kind of check and see how those lines are showing up. Remember that watercolor is transparent, so if you're doing some really, really hard edges or some really hard lines, that's going to show through the paint. It's not the end of the world if that happens to you, but just giving you a heads up. Also, I'm probably going to say this again during the tutorial, but I want to warn you. Animals always look really weird halfway through a painting. So I'm just going to ask you to give your painting a chance to be something before you decide to throw it away. A big part of that is I usually tend to do my eyes last, or one of the last things during painting. And animals just look really weird without painted eyes, okay? It is what it is. So,
I mean, in all honesty, there are times where we're painting an animal and I'm like, ooh, Sarah, are you going to bring this back? Or
Kevin's like, this can't turn out well.
No, what have we done?
Just know that that's okay, and that's very normal for animals, especially animals. So don't quit on your painting. A lot of the times when people are making something and they're brand new to it, they make a decision, you know, before they give their painting a chance to even be something. So I'm asking you to not only be kind to yourself, be kind to your painting, give it a chance. Because halfway through a painting, trust me, it won't be done. So therefore it's not going to look super pretty or correct. And that's okay. That's how it goes. There are a lot of lines on this one. If you accidentally skip some, it's not a big deal. Just kind of eyeball it. Or if you're using a orange marker or a colored marker to trace, gives you a better idea of where you've already been. Okay, and then I'm gonna look up. See, I feel like I didn't do any of these wrinkles. There we go. Okay, I think, oh, one more area. Also, make sure to have your reference photo handy. That's really helpful as you're painting and creating, to have something to look at and compare as you're going along in terms of, wait, why am I putting this dark color here? Oh, okay, because that's like the eyelid or something like that, you know, it's helpful to have. I'm going to use just blue painter's tape to tape off my edges so I can have a clean edge. You do not have to do this. It just depends on, one, if you want to have a nice clean edge, or if you want to paint all the way to the edge, then don't tape it off. Also, sometimes watercolor paper tends to kind of start to wave while you're doing layers of painting. So in order to kind of avoid that, you can tape your edges down, and that will keep your painting paper mostly straight. Now I'm just going to do a small edge here. Is that an okay place to tape it down?
Yes, it is.
Okay. The other really fun thing about painting animals is, and you'll see this too, is as you're painting them, different expressions are going to emerge. And we decide to roll with those expressions, and we name our animals based off of the expressions that they have. It's kind of fun. So, especially because like eyes and mouths and nose shape give a lot of information on expression. So everyone's is going to look a little bit different. And we embrace that here. Ooh, that was not straight. Okay, there we go. I'm going to press that down, make sure it's sealed nice and tight. Okay. Let's do this. So I'm going to grab my round 4 paintbrush. I'm going to get it wet, hit it off the side of the cup so it's not dripping. I'm going to grab some black, pull some to the middle, and then grab a little bit of blue to make like a navy kind of. Maybe a little bit more black than blue. And I'm going to start putting in my nostrils and the mouth line here. So right underneath this curve, put that in, have that line kind of keep going, and then do the other side. And I always like to immediately blend out. So I'm going to rinse my brush, and using just water, I'm going to blend that a little bit. Like so. And again, we're just kind of defining our shadows, defining where there are dark and lights. It'll make it easier as we go throughout the painting. Now there's a lot of lines on this mouth you can see here, okay? So I'm going to fill in the top section. So the mouth here kind of is curved, and to do a really thin line with your round paintbrush, you're going to pick up some color, kind of swoosh it back and forth, kind of squeeze it, and hold your brush kind of more straight up. Follow that line, okay? Now it gets to the thicker part, so it's okay if it's not super thin. And we're going to fill in that mouth. And then this next chunk section is just a shadow. So I'm going to take just water and kind of blend out the color I laid down, because there's a little bit of a shadow on that lip where that opening is. Okay? And now I'm going to go in and start kind of defining the wrinkles around the eyes. So I'm going to pick up more of that same color. And I'm going to start kind of going around the nose area here. And again, almost immediately I'm going to want to grab some water and start to blend out. So I'm pulling color that I initially laid down and not really adding a lot of color to it. And if you want to kind of blend out all the way to the face, that's fine. I left a little bit of a highlight here, but I can kind of go around my nose. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do kind of the wrinkles around the eyes. So here I'm just kind of taking my brush and following my outline here. Again, if you kind of go off on your own and make a little bit more marks than what's there, that's fine too. Outlines are just a guideline for you guys. It's okay to kind of decide to do your own thing. Now I'm going to start to blend out these wrinkles, but what I want you to notice is I'm not taking my brush and just doing a smooth run across this. I want to keep some spaces white. I want to keep some highlights in there. So I'm actually just doing a stroke here, kind of following the wrinkle shapes and lifting my brush. Okay? We'll do the same thing on the other side. Follow the outlines, little wrinkles. You can add more, you can make some longer or shorter. Just notice that when they get towards the cheek, they're really long, and as they get closer to the eye, they get smaller and shorter, okay?
Did you mention why you leave highlights?
So, I don't know if I did. So the reason why I like to leave highlights is because whenever you're trying to communicate form, there needs to be different values. Value is all about the lightness and darkness of a color. So this is a dark value, and you can see that this is a lighter value. You see that transition from dark to light? Mm-hmm. In order for something to feel like it is three-dimensional and has form, you need to have value range. It's very, very important. The other reason why I like to I'm leaving some highlights is because if you actually look at gorilla skin, there's a shine to it. And so we leave highlights or values to communicate the texture of something. And usually when something is wet or like kind of leathery or something like that, there's a glare to it. And glares are usually a really light value or white, okay?
That makes sense.
So I'm making sure I'm leaving those in. If I were to just do an even wash across it, it's not the end of the world. It just means that my highest value or my lightest value is no longer white. It's whatever color it blended out. So I have to like make all of my other values darker to compensate and have that value range. That might be a little bit too much information. That's okay. Okay, now I'm gonna go in. I need to mix a little bit more blue and black. I like to mix colors as I go. If it's not the exact same shade, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't stress about it. And I'm gonna start putting in the shadows around the eye. Now, the really fun thing about painting animals or humans is you can actually use yourself as a way to understand what's going on. So for example, you see this eye socket, there's a darker value over here on the top part on both sides. Now, if you were to feel your own face, you can actually touch and feel where you have cheekbone, where the cheekbone or your eye sockets are, and then where your eyeball itself bulges, okay? So in order to communicate all of those things going on, all of those ins and out on your face, we need to use value. So the value is darker where it goes in, okay? So if you're looking at my eyeball right now, it's gonna be the lightest where my eyeball itself is sticking out because it's closest to you, and also where there are bones. So my brow bone and my cheekbone. Now where there's no bone underneath and it's just socket, that's where it goes in. That's a darker value, okay? So that is just going to create a three-dimensional form on our two-dimensional surface by doing that. Okay, so here we go. I'm taking my black and blue mixture and starting to color in the eye socket.
That was a great visual explanation.
Oh, thanks. I mean, it's super, super helpful for you guys to like actually feel like what's going on the bone structure on the face. There's a little bit of a highlight here, that's why I have that section, okay? And I'm gonna kind of leave the eyelids alone a little bit right here. Again, we're not fully painting everything right now. We're kind of just defining our darker and lighter areas. Now on this side, it also is dark. So I'm gonna put in that section here. And just so you guys know, watercolor lightens as it dries. So this is wet right now, that's why it looks so dark. It will get a little bit lighter as it dries. That's totally normal. Don't get frustrated at that. That's just the nature of watercolor. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the shadow on this kind of brow bone where it meets the hairline. Kind of tucks in. So I like to put the darker value first and then blend out using water. Okay. There's also a stronger shadow here. So the other thing I want to call attention to is notice that one side of the face is shadowed compared to the other. So if I'm looking at my gorilla face on my reference photo here, the left side of this mouth is a darker value than this right-hand side of this mouth. So just when you're adding your layers, pay attention to that. Notice that it's going to be darker along this edge than on this side. Okay? And that's just the direction of the lighting. Lighting informs everything in terms of form, where you put your shadows, all of that stuff. Okay. So I'm going to put a darker thing here. And also here. Remember, this is our first pass at this. We're really just defining the areas. Please don't judge your painting yet. It's not going to look good yet. And it's not going to look good for a long time. That's okay. That's how it is with painting. You build it up.
It's got to have a strong foundation.
Yeah, it does. And that's how you achieve better depth too, by building it up. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our second step, which is when we're going to kind of do more of a wash across the entire face. So I'm going to pick up some more blue-black mixture here, and I'm going to start on the bottom part of my chin. I'm going to put the color there. Now you'll notice that this lip area right here is a highlight. That's the bottom of that's the top of the bottom lip, and it's highlighted. So I'm not going to put any paint in that area just yet, at least. So I'm going to start there, and then as I work my way across the chin, I'm going to keep grabbing water so my values can get lighter. Okay. And same thing for the top of the mouth and nose. Starts dark. As I work my way across to the right, it's going to get lighter.
What kind of gorilla is this?
Keenan. I don't know.
I shouldn't have asked.
What do you mean types of gorilla?
Like, I know there's one, there's like a... Okay, well, you shouldn't ask that question.
Okay, why don't you really do a little bit of research before we really let people know our knowledge base here. Okay, now I'm going to like the nose part. You'll notice that I have this section kind of outlined on the nose. That's a highlight. Same with this lip part. I'm not going to put any color there. So I'm just going to take some of this blue wash, fill it in kind of around that section. And don't worry, we'll do more layers. Again, we're still kind of putting our initial layers down. Now, my eye sockets I defined pretty well already, so I'm just gonna, oh, I had a little bit of magenta in there, no big deal. I'm just gonna start filling in around it. So we kind of have this forehead area that's a lighter value. So I'm just gonna use some water and spread. If you want to get more of a straight azure blue color, like a light blue, feel free to. Again, I hope at this point you guys know you are absolutely free to make this painting your own. You do not have to use the same colors I'm using. You can switch it up as you go. You're the artist here. It's your painting. It's your life. You get to do all that fun stuff. Again, I'm still kind of avoiding my eyes, and I'm going to want to avoid my eyes for a while. So the shadow on this nose, I'm starting to blend down so it kind of meets the top of the lip. There's Oscar, R.
He chimes in occasionally.
He chimes in. He just wants to be part of it. I get it. Okay. So I did kind of an all over face wash. Great job, that's step 2. I am actually going to do one more run of that, one more layer of that. So again, I'm starting on the left hand side, because that's where it's going to be the most shadowed. Now, if ever there's an area that you painted dark for a dark value and then you blended and you lost your dark, that is okay. That's normal. Just know that you can always go back and add your dark again. You just need to let it dry before you do so. So I'm going to go back in and actually redefine, kind of do another layer of shadow in the nostril, mouth, and kind of around the nose. But I want to make sure the area is a little bit more dry than it is now, so I'm not going to do that quite yet. Also, you'll notice here on the chin that it goes dark and then light and then dark again. And that's because we're trying to communicate that this is round, okay? If I were to keep this all one value, which means just all one like color, not necessarily color, but even, it will look flat. But by putting in a darker value on the left and a little bit of a darker value on the right, it's going to communicate that it's starting back, coming out at us, and then going back in.
Okay, I figured out what kind of gorilla it is.
Okay.
I think, based on its facial structure, which is all I can see,
Okay.
it is a cross river gorilla.
Oh.
Which is a subspecies of the western gorilla.
Okay.
Their average height for males is 1.65 meters, which is about 5.5 feet tall, to 1.7 feet, 1.75 meters. Okay.
Okay.
The females are 1.4 meters tall-ish, and 100 kilograms. I will tell you what that means momentarily.
I'm like, I'm sure that's a really impressive weight, but I don't know kilograms.
220.
Whoa.
So 5'4"-ish, 220,
wow.
And their wingspan is large.
Wow. They're a really intelligent animal. Very intelligent. Okay. So now I'm kind of going in and I'm doing another darker layer around the nose, in the nostril area. Again, I just want to make sure it's clear that it's not like I can say, you only need exactly 2 layers to do this painting. It doesn't work like that. Everybody picks up and lays down paint differently. So let your painting tell you what it needs. If you're new to this and you're like, I don't know what it needs, well, just try. Just give it a shot. But the more that you do that, the easier it will be for you to understand as you go what you need to make, and it will make it way easier for when you're ready to paint your own projects and come up with your own stuff. You'll kind of know what to do already. And that's my goal, is to give you guys that confidence that this is absolutely something you can do. Okay, I'm gonna do another layer around the eyelids. All right, it's looking good. Now, just so you guys know, wherever it is darkest, that's where it's farther away. And what do I mean by that? So if you're looking at me facing forward, there's different planes on my face. Okay, so if I were to do crossings like this, oh gosh, you know what it reminds me of? You know those toys for kids where they're a bunch of like they're not like needles, but they're like plastic sticks, and you make your hand in them?
Yep.
So think of that. Think of like if you were to take your hand and put it, or even your face, and how it kind of creates your profile. So when you're looking at something straight on, my nose is the furthest thing that sticks out from my face. And if you are, and I know this sounds silly, it's gonna feel silly, but if you're confused as to what is the thing that sticks out the most, you can just like actually try
touch
it.
Your face.
You could just like be like, oh, that's my nose. And I know it sounds really silly, but it's super helpful when you're doing art. So then I know that my nose needs to feel like it's on a different plane than my cheekbone or my chin or my eyes, because it is on a different plane. It's here and my cheekbone is here. And how we communicate that depth in drawing or painting is value. Okay, and so that means that my nose, because it sticks out the most, is going to have the brightest highlight or one of the lightest values because it's here. When you add darker values, it pushes things back. So when it comes to painting, you'll notice that the areas where they go the farthest back, which is inside the mouth, in your nostrils, and around your eyes, that's the darkest thing, because that's us communicating to our viewer that is farthest from you. It just keeps on going. And then the things that are highlighted are the things that are going to stick out the most. So when you're creating form or dimension or an object, you want to pay attention to what areas do I want to make it clear that this is coming out, and what areas do I want to make it clear that it's pushing back. And if you're able to define those areas and then paint those values, then you can completely create a three-dimensional object on a two-dimensional surface. Paper is a two-dimensional surface.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so that's why when we're looking at our gorilla, I want to make sure that that nose, that mouth line, around the nose and around the eyes, those are where it's going to be really dark because that's farthest away from us. Okay, great starting point. It's looking good. Still don't be hard on yourself. Don't judge this painting yet. We're only a third of the way through. Okay, so now we're going to move on to step 3, which is the hair. Gorillas are covered in hair. And instead of trying to paint every single hair, what I like to do is I like to do a wash, which is just an even layer of paint where I kind of play with, and this is where it's really fun with watercolor, and I'll show you. So I'm going to grab some blue and some black. I'm going to grab a little bit more blue than I have already, because why not?
Yeah, why not?
It's my painting, I can do it. And I'm just going to start putting color in and then using water to blend it out. And you can use water drops in here to get different textures and blooms. So you can see here in this area, there's a lot of variation. Variation in color, variation in value, varying blooms and lines. Play with it, you guys. Have fun in this area because we're gonna put these kind of like little textures on top to communicate that there's hair there, so the underneath part can be kind of fun. Also, if you maybe want to introduce another color, you can. So if I want to grab a little bit of yellow, have a green tint to this mixture, I can absolutely do that. I am going to leave kind of a white space between my fur and my face on purpose because I don't want these to blend together so much and run into each other so much that we lose its shape. The other thing I want you to pay attention to is the hair on the left-hand side, especially here, is a darker value than on the right-hand side. And that's because we're following the same pattern of light. It's darker on the left-hand side than the right-hand side. So go ahead and drop in that darker color. You can do it while it's still wet if you want. Now let's say you add a little bit of yellow and it makes it green, and that's kind of fun, but you don't want it too green. You kind of want to neutralize that green. Grab a little bit of magenta and add that to the mix. That will kind of neutralize that green a little bit if you don't want it. And I want you guys to also pay attention to, I'm using my brush stroke and following the shape or like the direction of the hairs. So on the left-hand side, since they're kind of coming out like this, those are the brush strokes that I'm making. On the right-hand side, it's going to be opposite because it's on the other side of it. So I'm curving the opposite way. On the top, it's going to the left, and then it kind of goes straight up and then to the right. So it's helpful to also kind of pay attention to your brush strokes as you're painting something. Are you following the actual form of what you're painting? Again, don't judge your painting yet. It's not to a place where you can do that. It's not ready. I'm just dropping in, again, a little bit more darker value on this left-hand side.
There's a gorilla that is stronger than 20 humans combined.
What?
Yeah. There's very much, there's a lot of interesting informations.
Keenan's like, this is great. So I'm going to mix a little bit of an orange / brown, because you can see here on my reference photo, I have a little bit of a brown color on that hair. I kind of like that, so I'm going to put that in there. You can also put it in on the left too. Originally, I was going to try and do this painting in only the black and blue colors, but I really wanted the eyes to be brown, so I needed to bring in that yellow and magenta.
Nice. It was a good call.
Thank you. Okay, that was step 3. We did our hair. Now we're going to move back into the face, do another layer on our face. Basically, we're just kind of darkening our darks, adding a little bit more detail here and there. So, again, I'm grabbing my darks, introducing them to the left-hand side, blending out, letting them be light, and then going back in on that right-hand side, doing another layer. And you'll see we kind of have some texture lines on this face. We're not there yet. I don't want to put those in, especially around the lips. You see how I kind of have these like lines here?
Yeah.
I don't want to put those in until the very end, because if I put them in now and I just do like blending and layers on top, those would just blend out. Okay, so now I'm going to start really defining my nose a little bit more. So I'm going to put shadows in around the nose to show that that nose is poking up from the face. And then I want there to be more of a darker value on that edge of the nose, like so. Make sure you keep that highlight right around that nose. There is a little bit of a shadow right here where it kind of curves.
I do like watching the gorilla, like any animal we've done, I like watching them come to life.
Yes, it's at this point that hopefully this gorilla's face starts to emerge a little bit. This is now where it's like, okay, try and make it feel like it's sticking out or coming out at you. Now remember, if you're trying to work an area and you're laying color down and it's just blending right out, it's not staying as dark as you want it to stay, let it dry. Move on to a different area and then come back to it, okay? So I put in my wrinkles initially, I blended them out, I kept some white areas for the highlights, but I did kind of lose the dark on some of these wrinkles. No biggie. Now that it's dry, I can go back in and put them back in. But just kind of pay attention to how dark it is you're painting, okay? We don't want it to be black. We don't want to be using black for this part because the wrinkles on the face is not the darkest part on our gorilla. Okay, then do the same thing on the right hand side. We're going to kind of just work our way on top of these wrinkles again. Okay, now we're getting to where I kind of want to put the eyelid in. So I want this to be like a light to medium value on the eyelid. So I'm going to just pick up a little bit of paint and just do a swoosh across there, like so. And I'm going to leave right underneath the eyeball, I'm going to leave that white. And that's again because I want to communicate, if you look at a human's eye or an animal's eye, there's that little lip between the eyeball itself and the eyelid. It's a little thickness, and we want to communicate that it's not totally smooth and flat. It sticks out a little bit. We do that by leaving a little bit of a highlight. Sorry, it's starting to look really like serious, that furrowed brow. Can you see that?
The thinker?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
I still see a bit of a smile though.
Yeah.
It's nice.
And this is where the brow edge is kind of tricky, because it kind of, like if you look at a gorilla's face, it kind of goes out and then back in. So that's why we have such a strong shadow right here, but it's not like sharp, right? It's not like a perfect edge. It's kind of rounded, which means that there'll be a little bit of a medium value on the top here, because there's like a transition period where it's not, because it's not just like boom, boom, angled. It's rounded.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom. Okay, again, don't judge your gorilla yet. It's not ready. Be nice to it. Be nice to you.
Right now, it kind of makes me think of any villain in Scooby-Doo when they're about to take the mask off.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because there's just enough of a highlight directly behind its face.
And then this line kind of got lost a little bit. So you can redefine it now, or you can wait till you're totally done and put it back in after you feel good about the darks that you've achieved on this gorilla. Okay. Okay. It's looking good. Now, the other thing I want you to notice is the direction of the lines, right? So how these lines and wrinkles are being directed is giving us information on the form of this. So you can see it's going out and starting in, and then also we want to show that it's going across the nose as well. So we have some of these wrinkles kind of poking out, hard lines coming across. So put a few of those in. Again, your gorilla still looks weird because we have not put the eyeballs in. That's okay.
I don't know, it's kind of cool.
So it's starting to...
Yeah.
Also, especially when you're painting animals, it's really important to step back. If you're feeling like you can't actually see what's going on, take a break, put it up, walk away from it, or you can take a picture of it. Taking a picture of it also helps for you to see what's really going on. So if you're starting to feel frustrated, like you're not really sure what part is what, walk away. Walk away, come back to it.
Go get a snack.
Get a snack. That's what we like to do.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of which. Okay. All right. Now, I think we're at a good place where we can do our eyes. Please, 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 please make sure that the area around the eyes is dry, because we want these eyes to be as sharp as we can possibly make them, okay? What I'm going to start with is the brown of the eyes. Now, what I want you to notice, and I'll show you on this one more specifically, is you can see at the bottom of the iris, it's a light brown. And then as you work your way up, it becomes a darker brown and then turns to black, okay? And that's because your eye is also round, has form, has things around it that are creating shadows. Your brow is casting a shadow, your eyelashes cast a shadow. So we want to make sure that we paint all of those values in. If we were to do one even flat wash of brown across that eyeball, it would just look, just wouldn't be rounded. So we got to communicate that. Now, we are working in a small area, so really utilize the tip of this brush. Make sure you're holding it right on the tip. Now to mix brown, I'm going to grab some yellow and a little bit of magenta. And you can decide how light you want your brown to be. If you want to start out with the bottom maybe being orange and then it turning into a brown, you could do that. Give it more of a golden brown color. Let's try that.
What if you did a steel blue?
Ooh, that would be really pretty, actually.
Really pretty.
Okay, so this is my iris part right here. So I'm going to start by painting the bottom and start working my way up on the top of my brown. Now there's kind of 3 dots in the center of my iris, or 3 sections. And that's because the middle one is the pupil, and then the things off to the side are glares, because your eyes are wet. We're trying to communicate that there's moisture on them by having a glare. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that orange and mix a little bit of this black or blue-brown mixture in to create a darker brown. And again, if you need to add some more yellow in there, add some more magenta so it doesn't feel like green or something, go ahead and do that.
Right now those eyes are real pretty.
Yeah, isn't that a pretty color? I'm going to try and leave that golden color. Now I'm going to put in the darker brown near the top. Again, I'm just using the tip of my round brush. Okay. We're going to let that dry for a second. And I'm going to work around this area. So I painted my irises. I'm not doing the pupils yet. We want to make sure that those stay nice and sharp, because we don't want that black to bleed into our brown. And I'm actually going to take only black. So I'm picking up just black here, getting a nice point on my brush. And I'm going to, it's almost like I'm going to give the gorilla eyeliner. I'm going to really go around that eye shape with this black.
Nice.
So go just on the tip. So, and then on the top. Okay. And then you'll notice that the outer ring is black. I'm not touching the brown area yet, because that brown area is not dry enough. It will just kind of bleed into it. I'm kind of just working around it. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other eye. Just take black, follow the shape of the eye, and then this one, there is a big black space before you see the white of the eyeball. So I'm going to paint that in. painting the edge of the brown. Okay. Now, I want you to notice two things. On this side and on this side, can they see that on the close-up?
No.
Okay.
It's in
I'll
the
put
eyes.
Okay. This and this are the whites of the eyeballs, but looking at all of the pictures of gorillas, it's actually really milky. It's not a pure white, and there's a lot of discoloration on the whites. So that's why I didn't leave it white. If I were to leave this section just white paper, it would have like looked way funky. It would have been like sticking out so much. So you can
Blinded by the light.
You can see that I'm going to take this black that I painted, add some water to my brush, and kind of just blend around this area, and that's going to be the white of my eyes. And I know it doesn't look like it yet because we still have some white sections, don't stress. But just so you know, I did not leave it white. And actually, if you look at the whites of your eyes, if you look closely, it's not pure white. There's a lot of undertones of blue and green and sometimes pink. It just depends on the eyes. So we're still working on the eyes. I'm taking my time with them because I want them to be nice and sharp. You want to make sure you leave adequate drying time too before you add more layers. Okay, so taking my brown mixture, you can see here I lost some of my yellow, like golden, that dark brown kind of bled into the bottom. That's fine, I can lift up color. I could just take a damp brush and lift.
This color is actually very similar to my older brother's eye color.
Oh, really?
He used to have very brown, like dark brown eyes, and now they're this color.
Like yellow? Like a green
amber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so and the right-hand side of this eyeball is black on our gorilla. So now I'm kind of slowly working my way and having that black edge touch my brown edge, making sure my brown is dry. Again, the eyes are still going to look funny because we haven't put in our pupils. That's okay. Again, don't judge it. But you can see how they're kind of starting to take shape now. I'm also going to take this black and put it on the very tip of my top part of my iris. That eyelid part is casting a shadow. I want to make sure it's nice and dark. Now I'm going to start slowly kind of meeting up to the brown part on the eye. I've noticed that my left eye is a little bit more orange than my right, that's okay. I mean, eyeballs aren't the exact same color on both of them, so don't stress if that's what's distracting you. Okay, and I'm going to leave that to dry for a second before I put in my pupil. And I like to do stuff while I'm waiting for areas to dry, so I'm going to move on and kind of redefine my eyelid shape a little bit more. So I'm going to put this curve in here and then here as well. And if you want to do just another wash across the face, another layer of shadows while we're waiting for that to dry. That's usually what I do. I go from one place to another, really. I feel like sometimes watercolor is like a dance. You know what I mean? You gotta work quickly, or you gotta back off. So you go in and out, move to a different area if you're waiting for it to dry. go back to an area quickly if you want to, work while it's wet.
That's a great analogy, because it could be an awkward dance when you first start. And you're like, wait, my left what? Where do I go?
What? So just kind of embrace that, know that we move across the things, and that's because with watercolor, drying is really important. I'm gonna kind of blend this out a little bit. Do another layer of shadow on the nose. Again, yours might not need this. Your nose could be good. You're like, no. My nostrils are defined. I don't gotta do this part. That's fine. You're only gonna know what's best for your painting. Just adding some more kind of value to my nostril area.
Getting a little more shape in there.
Getting a little bit more shape, defining that shape a little bit more. Now is where I can start kind of putting in these texture lines, the lip wrinkles a little bit.
Oh, lip wrinkles.
Keenan knows about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I believe my eye is dry enough that I can add my black pupil. So kind of just go in there, add. It might be kind of hard to see where your pupil shape is now since we've painted a lot around it. It's basically just going to be in the very center, and leave a little bit of cutouts for the glares. Those look like kind eyes.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah, this is a nice gorilla.
He's looking nice. He looks wise.
Or she.
Touche. Now the other thing that I'm noticing here is if your glares are too big, you can go in with brown or black depending on where they are in the eye and make them a little bit smaller. We do not want the white part of the glares to be so big that it's kind of distracting on what's going on in the eye shape itself. So when this dries, I'm going to go back in and kind of make some of these a little bit smaller. I don't want to do that yet because it's pretty wet and I don't want to mess up all of my layering of colors I just did. But hopefully now at this point you can be like, all right, I see you, gorilla.
I see you.
I see you. Now we're moving on to the last phase of our painting, and that's where we're starting to put in more of the detail lines and textures. Okay, so on your hair part, you can probably see some of the lines still through, and I'm just doing a few little texture lines to show that there's long strands of hair here. Looking at the direction, the left-hand side, it's kind of curving this way. The right-hand side, it's going to curve the opposite way. And basically, I'm just giving my viewer enough information that they can tell, okay, this is hair here. I get it. I got it. I'm picking up what you're putting down. If you can't see your traced area lines anymore because we've done so many layers, don't stress. Just eyeball it. It's not a big deal. It's just a piece of paper. Isn't it funny, like just putting in those like just hair texture lines, I feel like it kind of defined my gorilla a little bit more.
Just those little things.
Yeah. A little bit here and there. There's some wrinkles across the nose here. maybe even do one more swoop. Oh, okay, there's a good example. See how dark that is? That
Yes.
one wrinkle line? Too
Yes.
dark, too dark. It's matching the dark of my eyelids. So I'm just gonna take my towel, paper towel, and lift it up. You can even get the area wet and lift it up. There we go. That feels better.
Nice save, nice save.
Thank you, thank you. So I'm just kind of re-putting in some of these wrinkles if they got a little bit too blended out. If yours did not and you can still really see them easily defined, you don't have to do this part. And now I'm going to start kind of putting in my chin and lip wrinkles, okay? So I'm just going to go in with a little bit of a darker value. You don't want pure black, that's too dark. Just start kind of putting them here.
This is like the gorilla that you see in a dream and she guides you through your quest.
All right. Okay, and then I think my eyes are dry enough that I can go back in there. Try and make some of these glares a little bit smaller. There we go. Or another option for your eye glares is you can soften them. By soften them, that means you can just do a quick wash right over them, which tones down their whiteness a little bit. So I would suggest maybe taking a swoop and just doing a quick swoop over one of them and leaving the other one a little bit vibrant, more vibrant. And I'm going to do a quick swoop over this as well, because that was still the white of the paper. And again, if you put something down and it's just too strong, take your paper towel, you can lift it up. If you react pretty quickly, you can lift a lot of things up that maybe you weren't anticipating. So it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. Okay, and I'm going to do one more kind of wash at this hairline here. Remember, it's kind of a rounded area, so there's not a super clean edge. Maybe define that a little bit more. There we go.
Crazy how different it looks.
Okay. Okay, I think we're good, you guys. I think it's ready to be untaped.
Oh, snap.
All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. Whew. Okay. So, when you untape your project, you always want to do it slowly, section by section, and start by pulling away. So I'm starting on the inside and I'm pulling away. And you can see, and it will be more clear on the opposite side, that it leaves a nice clean edge, which is sometimes just really nice to have.
Beautiful edge. So satisfying.
So
to watch.
satisfying. But do it slowly. If you go too fast and just rip it off, you have a high chance of ripping your paper as
I've done
well.
that.
Oh, we've all done that.
Oh, dear.
It's such a sad moment. Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, yeah. Last one. The reason why we want to pull away is if for whatever reason your tape does pick up your paper, it will at least rip away from your painting and not into your painting. That's why I like to do it this way.
Lovely.
She's done. What do you think her name is?
Hera.
No.
Dang it. H-E-R-A.
Hera?
Hera.
No, it's got to be a kinder name than that.
Hera was the goddess of marriage and birth in Greek mythology.
Is she?
Yeah.
I only
Zeus's
really know.
wife.
I really only know her from the Disney movie Hercules.
Yeah. If she's your guide in a dream, what's her name?
I feel like. How do you feel about the name Jackie?
Oh, that's nice.
Is that a good one?
Yeah, that's a
okay.
good one.
This is my gorilla Jackie.
Yes.
Feel free to name your gorilla. I hope that you gave it a chance. And if you're still not happy with it, don't throw it away. I'm telling you, step away from it. Come back to it the next day. Things look so much better when you give yourself a little bit of space from it. So, thank you so much for painting with me. This was a hard one and you guys stuck in there. So I'm proud of you for trying this. If you tried this and it didn't really get to where you want, don't get discouraged. You guys can do this. Just keep on going, keep on painting, trying other things, and come back to it. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know, maybe I'm not ready for you yet. I'll come back to you in a little bit. No shame in that. So if you need any of these supplies or more of them, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. If you want to share what you've painted, you can tag us on Instagram at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. We also have a Facebook group, sole purpose for you guys to share what you're creating and what you're learning, and that is called Let's Make Art Watercolors. So go ahead and join that, have some fun, see what other people are making, and keep trying, keep going. You guys can do this. Being able to create is such a joy. It's so fun, and it's not something that you just get right away and you have it or you don't. That's not how it works. So if this is something that you enjoy doing, do it. And also, you don't have to focus on the outcome all the time. If you just enjoyed putting that paint to that paper, keep doing it. There is value in that. Keenan, thanks for hanging out with me.
Thank you.
You guys, thank you for painting with me, and I hope you keep painting with me, and that's all I gotta say. Bye.